All right, it's the Houston High School Huddle. We're back again, previewing Week 10, looking back at Week 9. It's the Whiz Kid. We're talking with my main man, Stepp, over there. He's about ready to make that another one of those Canada trips coming up here pretty soon. So good, catch him in the airwaves, talk to him in the airport. He loves that when you bug him in the airport. Go ahead and tap him on the shoulder, ask him some questions about football.
Somebody did talk to me at Hobby on Sunday, so it did. Hey, it's okay.
You like that. You like that. He likes that. You like that? Sorry, I didn't mean to get all Kirk Cousins on.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
Hey,
Look,
let's talk.
It means people are watching, so hey.
Exactly. They're seeing what you're doing and putting your stuff out there. We got to talk. I mean, I want to get right into this because it was so crazy this past week. Let's talk about Week 9. We talked off camera. It happened everywhere in Texas, but I want to concentrate just on the Houston area. Such great games all over the place. Banger after banger. Obviously, we're going to start with the big one, which was Tascosa and Northshore. We both talked about it. I felt like this was the year that Tascosa could probably get them one of the two times they're playing. I guess it's going to have to be the second time because it's not the first time, that's for sure.
Yeah, Northshore, I think their big game experience and just not panicking came through. I watched this game Friday night in El Paso while I was at my game, and I thought Tascosa on Friday night was the better football team. But Northshore's defense, which I thought is really good. I mean, the defense, I think, lived up to the hype, kept them in the game, kept Tascosa at bay, didn't let them extend the lead, and then they got the break late, the shank punt, and then they caught the break on the long pass where Cameron Smith laying on his back and catches the tip ball.
Off feet.
Just a crazy ending. It's just one of those things. North Shore's got their number, and when you got somebody's number, the ball bounces your way. The key for Tascosa now, I think, is to, they've gotten through. They split North Shore, Summer Creek, so I think at this point they got to go into the playoffs, get their minds right, and then if they run into North Shore again, they're just going to have to find a way to get over that mental hurdle. I think it's kind of a mental block at this point. Because it's not a talent thing. They're just as good as North Shore. It's just a mental thing at this point. And I think, eventually it'll come. It's just a matter of when something goes wrong, they can't be like, oh, no, here we go again. They got to find a way to fight through it. And
exactly.
And credit to North Shore. It was a great high school football game and two elite teams going at it.
That Cameron Smith catch, I mean, if anything, that's what makes it Tascosa. Oh, here we go again. When a guy's laying on his back and kicks it back to himself and catches it, you're like,
yeah.
I think it was in the red zone. He's like, what are we doing? How come we can't do that? And as we're doing this podcast, Game 3 of the World Series is going on, and Aaron Judge is still striking out. So it's like you're saying, when somebody has your number, like they're having Aaron Judge's number, the Dodgers have their number this year. That's what happened with that Tascosa. Maybe by the end of this thing, Judge will get a home run or something, or a double, but we could strike out 3 more times. It's the same thing going on with North Shore and Tascosa, but it was a terrific ball game, and they really, like you said, it tightened up the defense like crazy in the second half. It was 23-20 at the half, right? And that was the only points.
23-20.
It's the only points in the second half.
Less than a minute left in the game. So, yeah, great defense from both teams. I thought Tascosa's defensive game plan was elite to hold North Shore in check. If I was a North Shore fan, I'd be a little concerned about the lack of identity on offense. They're just kind of in fits and starts. Just not real consistent on offense, and so I feel like that would be a concern, just for me. I think they just got to figure out what they do well and stick to it. Maybe they will come playoff time; they're still trying to figure it out. But we're in week 10 now, so at some point, you are what you are. So,
and they still got Summer Creek on the docket coming.
Yeah,
maybe that'll help them teach
next week. So, yeah,
maybe that'll help them teach something. Hey, there was other bangers this week. I mean, let's talk about some of them. Let's talk about the one you were at. It was Saturday night. Let's talk about Cy Ranch and Cy Woods, because that was another that actually flipped the scales to the fact that Cy Ranch now has a chance to win the district if they can beat Bridgeland this week.
Yeah, it was a great game Saturday afternoon there at Bridgeland Stadium. I got there a little bit late. My flight got delayed because as I was flying in from El Paso, we had a ground stop because Vice President Harris was flying out of Hobby Airport. So we had to wait a little while. So I didn't get to the game until the second quarter. The crazy part was it was 0-0 when I got there. They didn't stay 0-0.
They waited for you.
Yeah, they all scoring done when I got there. Great ball game, back and forth game. Ranch Woods goes down and scores with, a minute and a half left to take a 28-21 lead. Ranch, with their backup quarterback in the game, their starting quarterback, got hurt in the second quarter, and the backup quarterback, Baker, comes in, the sophomore. They go 5 wide with a minute and a half left. They bing, bing, bing down the field, tied up at 28 to go to overtime. Woods gets the ball first. They go in and score, and Cy Ranch defensive end Nicholas Fisher, the Oregon State commit, blocked the PAT in overtime, and then Ranch scored and got the PAT to win. Fisher had an awesome game. He blocked another PAT in the first half and blocked a field goal. He was unbelievable. He was a menace on defense. He was outstanding. He was really the difference maker for Ranch in that ball game. And now you got Cy Ranch playing Bridgeland this Saturday. The winner gets the district championship most likely, and the number 1 seed in the Division I bracket come playoff time. So great win for Will Blaylock and Cy Ranch. Done a great job there.
Yeah, and but I don't even want to say we ignored them, but we weren't hyping them up like we have other years. And they're like, that's cool. We can play in the shadows, but when we come out of the shadows, y'all better be shining that light on us. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Had a couple other overtime thrillers, and the one that I want to talk about is that 3A thriller, Hitchcock and Columbus. And that thing looked fabulous, especially that last play. Schobel, he must have dropped back 25, 30 yards, still threw a touchdown. And then they rolled the dice, went for 2. It didn't work out for him. I think he might have thrown all his strength into that touchdown pass because the 2-point conversion came up way short. Talk to me about that game and what you thought about it.
Just a heavyweight fight, 2 really good teams going at it. I think both teams took a big chunk out of each other. There's some key injuries on both sides. Don't know what's going to happen with those key injuries to key players and how long those guys are going to be out. Their season-ending injuries, that kind of thing. But definitely a heavyweight fight. And credit to Hitchcock, they showed up. Last year, Columbus kind of physically bullied them up front and dominated them up front. And this year, that didn't happen. Hitchcock was up for the fight. They were ready to go. They did a great job. They made Columbus a little uncomfortable. They got up, they were up 30 to 14 late in the game, and Columbus kind of rallied late to tie it up. Credit to them. And then in overtime, we saw what happened. So a great ball game. I just hope that both teams didn't take too big of a chunk out of each other going into the playoff run, because that game was special.
Yeah, that was something else. And then there's another overtime game over in Galveston. Barbers Hill and Galveston Ball, they went 4. 1, 2, 3 weren't enough. They had to go 4. Yeah. Another big injury, because you saw Jonah Williams on the sideline with the shoulder deal. He told our photographer that he felt like he's going to be back. It's not like he's done, but that's at least what he was telling him without any kind of doctor diagnosis or anything.
Sure.
He's willing to tell him anything. But Barbers Hill wins that game 62-60, and they're kind of used to games like that. Remember Richland last year in the playoffs? That was a crazy score. They can go score for score with you, and they proved they can with Galveston Ball as well.
Yeah, really good win for Barbers Hill. Sets them up to kind of gets after their loss to Port Arthur there in Lufkin. They're kind of back in the mix. Good win for them. Tough loss for Ball at home, going down. Now they're kind of in a tight spot now where if they win this week, they will still most likely host a first-round playoff game. And then going into that Week 11 showdown with Lufkin at home for the district championship possibly. So still in front of Ball. That loss doesn't change any of their goals. They just got to try to get it together and, probably without Jonah Williams at least for a little while.
That one looked like another good atmosphere. I like these good atmosphere games, and especially when you got them coming out there and you can go a couple overtimes, give them their money's worth. Their fans love that. I'll keep coming back.
Told you, Corville Stadium in Galveston is an awesome place to watch a football game, especially if Galveston Ball is playing good football. It's a fun place.
Yeah, my guy Marcus has turned into be the overtime kid. Every time I send him to a game, he goes Thursday and Friday night. So 3 out of his last 4 games have been overtime games.
Man,
so he's like, I don't know where exactly. He's probably going to ask for a raise. Hey, I'm working more than all these other guys.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Just hang on. Actually, this week he goes to. We'll talk about it later when we get to the game breakdown. Tell me what the heck's going on over here with Nederland. They're here and they're not going nowhere. They're kind of Cy-ranching us in 858 D2. And what does this win over PNG mean for the big question? Who's playing sock in the second round?
Well, it kind of depends. Nederland's got 2 really tough games left. They got to play Huntsville and they got to play Montgomery. So it's a lot ahead of them. But I can say if Nederland wins one more game, they're going to be the number 1 seed. They'll wrap it up with one more win.
Right.
The big
It'll
question
be tough to get that.
It will be. There are two really tough games, but they just need one because they got head-to-head on PNG now. So, I think right now it's probably PNG sock in round 2. PNG is probably going to be the number 2 seed, and that means PNG sock in round 2. So that'll be a huge one. The real interesting thing at 8-5 AD2 is going to be who gets those last 2 playoff spots, because there's a good chance we could have a 3-way tie with the 2 Montgomery schools in Huntsville. If that happens, Huntsville's out. Huntsville misses the playoffs, which is crazy, because I had them in the state championship game preseason. Huntsville also had a significant injury. Their quarterback got hurt at the end of the Lake Creek game. We'll see what his status is this week. He didn't finish the game, so we'll see what that means for their chances, especially on the road at Nederland. So Huntsville needs to win this game, because if they end up in a tie, they're going to be out of it. So so they need this one. So it's pretty much, if they lose this one and they get 3 losses, they're probably done.
And kudos to Lake Creek. I mean, they took those losses, and they were thinking a lot of people could have counted themselves out. They still felt like they had something to play for, and now they're in there where they could actually get in a playoff spot. Where last week we were talking about they looked like they're outside looking in.
That's the crazy part about. It's the beautiful part about Texas high school football is as long as there's a mathematical shot, there's hope. So credit to them for that. That was a huge win on the road at Huntsville.
Is there a mathematical shot for our boys at CE King, or is it a wrap for them? They lost that 21-20 game to Kingwood. Mm-hmm. I don't know what kind of tie. I mean, they're going to have to. What kind of tiebreaker could get them out of missing the playoffs? Because it's been a while since they weren't that 4 seed.
Yeah, well, I think for CE King, they're a game. They need Kingwood to lose out, basically.
They got to beat Northshore,
and then CE King's got to win out.
So they got to go into Northshore and win.
They got to win at Northshore, and then they got to hope CE King, and they got to hope Kingwood loses to Summer Creek, which probable.
Which they probably will.
And then Humble, which is much less probable.
Yes.
So they need
things aren't looking good.
They need to lose both of those games, and then CE King's got to beat Northshore, which is highly unlikely, and then they got to beat Channelview last game of the season. So they're not done mathematically, but they're on life support at this point.
The percentage is down.
I told you, Humble Kingwood. I was talking about
you
him
did.
preseason.
You did.
And they're
you absolutely did. They are making it, because they gave a Tascosa game 2 weeks ago, and now they actually took out CE King. CE King's going to need some sort of a Hail Mary or something to pull this one off. And you don't see that every day, though. Hail Marys don't really happen all that much. They do happen sometimes. They happen sometimes.
They do happen.
But not all that often.
Word is one happened on Sunday. I don't know where that.
It happened. So. They're gonna need somebody to tip a ball. Hey, talk to me about the Spring Lions. They started this joint off 0-5, and now they've reeled off 3 in a row, including one against Decaney. If they can find a way to beat Aldi Nimitz on Thursday night over there at Thorne, I mean, they're in. They're probably in anyway.
They may be in anyway. It just kind of depends on how the tiebreakers. 14-6A is kind of crazy with everybody beating everybody. But yeah, credit to Spring. They could have packed it in and gotten ready for basketball season. They kept fighting. And huge win over Decaney. I think at this point you look at 14-6A and you got the 3 Spring schools and the 2 Alding schools. Who's going to be out? Who's going to miss? And I think now.
What are you thinking about Decaney right now? I can't even put my finger on them. I mean, they did beat Alding Davis, who's given Nimitz some problems, and I think they may have. I don't even remember if they played Spring yet or not. Yeah, they got Spring too.
No, Spring beat Decaney last week.
No, I'm talking about Aldine Davis. What do you know about Davis? Because Davis beat Spring, Davis beat Nimitz. Are we saying that? Yeah. Are we saying Decaney can beat Davis? And the last week of the season, or have they already played? They already have.
They already played. Decaney beat Davis. So you look at Davis, they're 4-1. They got Westfield this week. They're probably not going to win that game, but they closed with MacArthur. They should beat MacArthur. So
yeah, they'll be in.
Davis is going to go 5-2. They're probably in. I think the real battle here is with Nimitz, Spring, and Decaney.
I just can't figure out Decaney. They got two D1 superstar athletes, and they're so wildly inconsistent. I don't know what to make of Decaney.
Nimitz has the toughest path because they got Spring and Decaney the next 2 weeks. So that's a tough path for them. Spring, they close with Nimitz and Aldine. So you got to think Spring's going to win at least one.
Right.
So they're looking at 4 wins. And then Decaney at 3-2 closes with MacArthur and Nimitz. So I think Spring and Decaney are I mean, they all control their own destiny because they're all games against each other. So I think it's just going to be a matter of who takes care of business in these really kind of coin flip type games.
Yeah, and Spring and Nimitz is guaranteed overtime game because Marcus is shooting that for me on Thursday. So that'll be a thriller. Make sure you all get out to that one if you want to see extra football. Let's talk about my man Maxwell Hendricks. Boy, is he playing some ball. He's not getting big-time scholarship offers, but boy, is he trying his darndest to get it. He had 4 touchdowns against Tomball Memorial. He had 4 touchdowns last week against Collins. The guy can get open. He's an amazing receiver, and I think he probably should get more offers than he's getting.
If he keeps it up, he'll start getting them. He's putting up big numbers, and Kane's playing great football. And they got a showdown this week against Tomball on a Saturday there in Klein. So huge numbers for the Klein-Kane offense and doing a great job. He's been impressive. Very
impressive. All right, what can you tell me about Houston Fur? Is there a forfeit situation? Talk about this deal.
Yes.
What was that all about?
So my understanding, last Saturday, I believe, there was an altercation at the end of the Fur and Worthing game.
Okay.
And basically, HISD took, disciplinary action on multiple players from both teams. The issue with Fur is because Fur had so many guys suspended, they didn't have enough players to field the team. They don't have a JV. They don't have a JV. Everybody that's at Fur is on
it's 4A. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Whereas Worthing had enough players to move up from the JV to field the team last week. So that's why Worthing played, because they had a bunch of JV kids who were not suspended because they didn't play in the varsity game, move up to play in the Scarborough game, while Fur did not have enough players available to play against Kashmir, so they had to forfeit the loss. That's kind of what happened. I don't know. Obviously HISD cannot, disclose punishments of student athletes, that kind of thing. So I don't know how long. I don't know which players are suspended. I don't know how long they're suspended for. We just know Fur had enough players suspended they couldn't play last week, and Worthing had enough from the JV team. So it's very interesting because if this suspensions are longer than one game, or players are suspended for the rest of the year, especially Worthing, a team that could go 10-0, that could have, depending on which players are being disciplined, could have some impacts. So it's a tough situation. It's a learning lesson for those kids. I commend Houston ISD for taking swift action and setting an example and sending a message that kind of thing won't be tolerated. So kudos to them, and hopefully things work out. And it's a ultimately high school sports is a learning. It's supposed to be a tool to learn. Yeah, you want to win. Everybody's competitive, but it's really about education and learning. And so I think this is a teaching moment for those kids. Becoming
men too, accountability and all that. So. Yeah, I got you. Sure. That's interesting. I did not hear what had happened. Do you have any thoughts on that Bay City El Campo game? Because Bay City kind of gutted it out there, got that 26-21.
They jumped out early on El Campo and kind of hung on late. It was typical rivalry game, great ball game, great atmosphere. I think both those teams are really good. And, Austin LBJ, San Antonio, Davenport are going to be contenders there in Region 4, but Bay City and El Campo are right there as well. So two really good teams that I think have the potential to play past Thanksgiving at minimum.
All right, well, let's get into this week, Week 10. Obviously, our game of the week is on Thursday, Ridge Point and Hightower. Hightower's kind of got that Tascosa thing going on with Northshore with Ridge Point. They can't seem to get by them. I mean, Ridge Point's won 9 out of the last 10 district titles, looking for 10 out of 11. Coach LaFavors he won't admit it to me, but I can tell that the whole coaches poll thing with Hightower being ranked ahead of him each and every week is eating at him, because every week he ranks his team just a little bit higher, to hopes to get him up there a little bit more. But they won't be able to hold him back this week if they're watching, if they can pull this one out. It's actually at Mercer, not at Hall. I don't know if that makes any difference to anybody, but it's still going to be a packed house. Tell me what you think is going to happen in this one.
Yeah, you're right. Ridge Point's got Hightower's number. I was at the game 2 years ago when Ridge Point was kind of Austin Carlisle's coming out party that day. Ridge Point, I think, blocked a field goal for a touchdown. I had a kickoff return for a touchdown in that game to kind of come from way back to beat Hightower. I think Ridge Point on paper is the better team. They've got I think better wins on their resume. They're loaded. Austin Carlisle's an absolute dude. They've got playmakers all over the place. That receiver, it's going to TCU's a stud.
Dane Jones.
Dane Jones. They got dudes in the secondary, the linebackers. They're Ridge Point is aside from Northshore, maybe the most and Tascosa, maybe the most physically talented team in the Houston area. Hightower's very talented as well. I mean, you got Cade Phillips out there, the LSU commit at corner. Yeah. They've got some play. The offense has got a lot of new faces, and those guys have stepped right in and done a great job. But Hightower, their non-district schedule, the overtime win over Port Arthur early in the year kind of threw me. And their best win, other than that, is probably Westfield. And we all know, we've all kind of admitted this is not the Westfield team we're used to seeing. So I feel like Ridge Point's got a talent edge here and going to get it done, but Hightower gets up for this game. This is the one they have circled. It's the Tollway Cup. Ridge Point, before it opened up, those kids, a lot of them went to Hightower. So these schools and communities aren't far from each other. It's not a bitter rivalry. I mean, they it's not like there's not hatred, but there's definitely a lot of competitiveness. So Hightower's going to play them tough as they always do, but I just think Ridge Point's got too much.
I agree, and I'm also excited that this game is so late in the season and gets them ready for the playoffs, because it's not when you're at the lower end of Region 3, you're not getting any kind of easy run here. You're going to 22-6A, then you're probably going to have to play in a Tascosa or a Northshore if you're a Division I team. Hightower's not going to have to face them, but Ridge Point will. So I'm glad this game's a little later in the season, get a little tested here.
Especially because both of them are just kind of head and shoulders above the rest of the
district. Yes, they're whipping team 77-0. It's not even close.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move back up to 13-6A. These two teams are going in completely different directions. I think the Woodlands is rolling now after that 3-point last-second loss to Willis. Conroe now, they may not be losing these games, and again, nobody apologizes for winning, so I'm not asking them to apologize to me. But they're barely beating Caney Creek. They're kind of at one point we said, is this going to be a 3-team race? Well, no, it's definitely not. They're distant third, maybe a little bit better than College Park. What do you think about these teams kind of going into the postseason? How they're playing?
I think Conroe's been even if you look before I think the Willis game did take some starch out of them, obviously considering how bad Willis beat them. But, I mean, if you look at Conroe's early season results, it wasn't like they were just
they weren't stomping the A-Leaf teams out there, barely getting by.
I think this is just kind of what Conroe is. They're a good team. But there's levels to this thing, and I think they're just a level or two below the Woodlands. So, the Woodlands have got too much.
What division will they go, since we know those 4 teams that are going at a 13-6?
Conroe and the Woodlands will be Division 1. So this is for seeding.
So they'll play Spring Westfield in the first round, right? For the most part?
No, Westfield's going D2 this year.
Oh, they are going to? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, Westfield's enrollment drops. So, it looks like the Woodlands and Conroe would probably get, the Aldine schools if they get in. So,
okay, interesting.
If one of the Aldine schools misses, I think Decaney or Spring would be Division I at that point. So,
I didn't know that.
Still a lot to be decided there. So, my playoff projections for 6A are posted, though.
Yes, we'll take a look at those because I did not realize. Should have checked them before we got on. I didn't realize.
Just got posted a couple of hours ago.
I'm just assuming Westfield is always Division I. You say they lost them a reach. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we talked a little bit about this one, but we haven't come up with a winner out of you yet. So who do you think is going to pull it out between Nimitz and Spring? As we said, Spring's on a roll.
All year. Been a Nimitz guy all year, so I'm going to stick with Nimitz. I think Nimitz, especially Spring, coming off that big win over Decaney, they have a little bit of a letdown this week, so I like Aldine Nimitz because Nimitz is kind of playing. Nimitz knows they need to win this game. If they lose, they know they're going to get drug into a bad tiebreaker situation possibly. So I think Nimitz gets it rolling and gets a win here.
The backs are against the wall. Saturday afternoon, we got a district title game going on. We got Tomball and Klein. Tomball is just motoring around. They're getting their wins. They're not going to apologize for how badly or how close their games are. They're just beating them, and they're beating quality teams. So
yeah, good wins. Don't like the black uniforms, but they're getting good wins.
That's right. You don't like those.
No.
I was going to say that about my Commanders too. I'm not a big fan of their all blacks either, but we don't need to talk about that.
It's just not Tomball to me. I see Tomball on white helmets, red tops. So
yes.
Tomball's been during these surprise playoff runs over the past 3-4 years. They've made a living winning close games. Now they're taking it to the regular season. They're winning close games in the regular season as well. So credit to those kids. They just find a way to win. Like, they just do all the little things right. They don't blow you away with any individual talent. They're just solid. But Kane, I think Kane's just a little too talented, a little too tough, and I don't think Kane's going to beat themselves. So I like Klein Kane on Saturday to lock up the district title and that number 1 seed. The real fun, I don't know, do you have any 15 6A games?
I do not, but I do want to talk about how the possible 3-way tie here between
let's talk about it.
Oak, Magnolia, and Collins, because that's I'm leaving you with the tiebreakers because that.
All right, so
go ahead and talk to me.
All right, so basically, Oak and Collins are at 4-3 with 1 game left.
Right.
They're both favorites. They're both favored to win. So they're probably going to finish 5-3.
Right.
The real dilemma comes between Magnolia and Klein, because if Magnolia wins out and goes 5-3, I don't know the tiebreakers on that yet. If Klein wins, I need to figure that out. If Klein wins and wins out and goes 5-3, you have a 3-way tie between Klein, Collins, and Oak. Okay?
Right.
They've all maxed out against each other.
Oh boy, are we going to Whataburger and flipping coins? What's happening?
Yes,
we are. Flip. Oh my gosh, we got a camera there, Marcus. We're going overtime in the coin flip.
You will have a coin flip for 2 playoff spots. 3 teams, 2 spots. Oh, I don't know where they'll do it at. Probably at the stadium, I guess. That's probably where they do it, in the stadium parking lot or at the admin building. But yeah, if that they all finish. So basically, if Collins and Oak win their last game and Klein wins their last 2, we're looking at a 3-way tie. No way to break the tie except a coin flip. So somebody's season would end potentially on a coin flip. So keep an eye on 15-6A. We'll talk more about it next week if it gets to that. The big game, I think, is week 11.
Yeah, Klein and Magnolia. Yeah, Magnolia's kind of they finally played a different competition here, and they're starting to see what 6A football is all about. Is they've now lost 2 in a row here.
Yeah,
and they lost to Oak, but they beat the pants off of Oak. That's the funny thing.
Yeah, they're kind of fading back a little bit, and that's kind of the thing about Magnolia. I think is going to be, that if they get in a 3-way tie, I think they'll be okay because they maxed out on Oak, and they only lost to Collins by 3. So I would think Magnolia would get in that scenario. I'm trying to see if I have an email on the other side here. Let's see here.
Tomball Memorial can sit around and play spoiler the next 2 weeks is what they can do.
If Magnolia gets in, then you basically have Magnolia would be in and Oak would be the 4 seed. So Collins would be out if Magnolia beats Klein.
If it's a 3-way tie like that?
Yeah, if it's a 3-way tie with Magnolia, Oak, and Collins, Magnolia and Oak would get in. So there you go.
Interesting. I wonder, you look at Tomball Memorial, can they play spoiler? Can they beat one of these 2 teams? And
they're the one that would play spoiler, yeah.
Because there's none of the 3 teams that you mentioned have really instilled any kind of confidence in me as far as, all right, I'm gonna go out. I mean, we've been ready this whole season to say, all right, Collins is gonna step forward and win out here, and they're gonna get their stuff together, and they never really have. And Klein Oak looked like they were doing well, and then all of a sudden they took a loss last week, and they took that butt kicking to Magnolia earlier in the season. And we haven't really talked a lot about Klein, but the Bearcats are just they're handling their business now. They're winning ones they should win, and then they finally got the upset win last week against Klein Oak, or they may not think it's an upset, but considering we hadn't talked about them, so maybe they are the squad that can pull this thing out. I don't know. It's going to be a really interesting last 2 weeks here in 15-6A. to see who those last two spots go to, because there's certainly a bunch of teams fighting for it. They're the new 16 6A is. That's the way 16 6A has been over the past couple of years.
Yeah, 16 6A is surprisingly, like, we know who the four
That's
teams
chalk.
are at this point.
Yeah, that's pretty much chalk right now. And Bridgeland against
trying
Cy
to figure
Ranch.
out the seeding now with Bridgeland and Cy Ranch. I think the D2 seeding is pretty much set unless Cy Woods loses to another one they shouldn't lose. But I think this is where we're really going to get the D1 seeding on Saturday there. And I think this is a Saturday game in Cy Fair. I know you don't like Saturday games, but I believe it is Saturday.
Yeah, they're playing at noon.
You can deal with the noon Saturday kickoff.
I can deal with the noon. Yes.
Yeah, you can.
I can deal with that.
Yeah, the 7 o'clock kickoffs is what makes Ward mad.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like those. Yeah. Which I don't even want to talk to you about the 6A state title game, Division 1. That's going to make me mad. I can tell you already. I'm already getting angry about that. I'm going to look like an idiot.
It's going to be. It's going to be one every year. It's either D2
I know.
or D1.
I'm going to look like an idiot. Well, I didn't look like an idiot last year because Summer Creek put up like 12 points. I wouldn't have had any highlights to show anyway.
You didn't have to worry about it. Yeah. I think this game. I wonder if Cy Ranch, such an emotional win last week.
And you said the quarterback's hurt.
And Owen Cassette got hurt. Don't know if he's going to play. He didn't play the second half. And then he coming off an emotional win where they really, trying to bounce back against Bridgeland. Bridgeland's so physical. They're so solid across the board. It's going to be tough. I like Bridgeland in this one. I think they lock up the district championship in that number 1 seed.
Well, I'm interested in who you got winning the district title in this one. As Cy Falls plays Cy Fair, which we certainly thought it was going to be Cy Fair and Stratford, but it's Cy Falls and Cy Fair. By the way, the Houston Chronicle got me last week. I looked at the scores and I saw Cy Fair beat Cy Creek 8-0. I was like, whoa, it's closer than I thought. Well, they missed a 3 in there. It's 38-0. Dadgummit, Cron instead of Con. Tell me what you think about Cy Falls. The reason I give Cy Falls a little bit is because they're on a roll right now. They had 4 straight shutouts, and then they really dismantled Stratford, which we may have put too much credence on Stratford. Who knows? But they're still looking like a third-place team.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I wonder if Stratford in that loss to Fair took a lot out of them.
Yeah.
It could be a classic case of letting one loss beat you twice.
Yeah.
This is an old rivalry in Cy Fair, maybe the second oldest. I can't remember. I know obviously Cy Fair is the original, but Cy Falls is not far behind. They're one of the older schools in Cy Fair as well. So it's either Falls or Creek or Langham Creek, one of the 3. So they've been playing for a long time. They haven't played in a while because they've been in separate districts. Now Falls moves into this district. So it's good to see this rivalry renewed, and it's got a lot of playoff implications. I like Cy Fair. I've always liked Cy Fair, and I just lean towards tradition here. But if one thing would make me pick Falls, it'd be their defense. I think Cy Falls has got a great defense, one of the better, most underrated defenses in Houston. That could be a big difference in this game. But I'll lean to Fair. I've kind of got a soft spot for Fair. I've always liked what Pajowski did before, and now Coach Miller.
Yeah, Caleb Burns is playing. The Baylor commit's playing unbelievable at linebacker for Cy Falls. And guess what, Stepp? That game is 7 p.m. on Saturday. I can't get these games on, Stepp. Oh, yeah, that's why we talk about them on the podcast, because they flip them over to Saturday, and all of a sudden I'm depressed.
I think there's band competitions or something going on at Cy Fair. So making both stadiums aren't available to play early this week.
Well, God forbid the trombone player can't step aside for a second so I can get my Cy Falls game in there. But anyway, I won't lament on. Let me cook. I mean, will you? All right, another game in this district. This is probably for the 4th spot here. Memorial against Jersey Village. My God, Stepp, when Jersey Village loses, they go all out when they lose. They just get bombarded.
Yeah.
But when they win, they do some things. Is this one where they start losing and get bombed out? Or you know what I feel about Memorial. I've been saying it all year, but Memorial actually put up some points the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Northbrook and like.
Yeah, Cy Creek.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Yeah, Cy Ridge probably. I don't have a good feel for this game. I don't have a good feel for either of these two teams. I don't think either of these two teams are particularly world beaters. I think they're just the product of a district that's pretty top heavy. I've been going with Jersey Village as the 4 seed for quite a while. So, Cy Falls is going to be watching this game very closely because if Memorial wins, it's going to push Cy Falls to the Division I bracket. So I'll go with Jersey Village. Don't feel great about it, though. Just don't feel great about either of these two teams. And they don't give me warm fuzzies.
I got you. So, and then what happens? So Memorial would go Division I if they make it, and they would probably
Memorial would go D2.
They would go D2. Okay.
The two spring breaks, Memorial and Stratford to be D2, and Cy Fair and Cy Falls to be D1.
So if Jersey Village wins, then they would get Lamar most likely.
Yeah.
And find a way. Little Lamar may be down. I don't think they're down enough to lose to Jersey Village.
Yeah, I think that Lamar would be a favorite over Jersey Village, I think.
Well, 19-6A, I just threw this game in here. We're pretty much set here. Katy versus Tomkins. The only reason I put that in there is Tomkins is the only team that can really beat Katy, and that was several years ago. That was 4 or 5 years ago now. But Tomkins played their way back.
Jalen Milroe was the quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. Milroe was in there with it. But they've got themselves into the postseason. Tell me, since we're talking about 19-6A, talk to me about who's 1-2 in Division 1-2 out of the teams that made it.
Yeah, Katy will be Division 1 as the 1 seed. And then Pado will be the Division 1-2 seed. And then Jordan will be the 1 seed in D2. And Tompkins will be most likely the 2 seed in D2.
Okay. Because in the past, we always worried about whether Katy was going to go
D1
or D2, and this one's been settled a lot easier than it used
Tompkins
to.
got in, and then that pushed Katy to the Division 1 side of things.
And we probably, and you're saying Tompkins is 2, so we're not going to see a Tompkins Ridge Point Classic like we did last year.
Now, they played some great first-round playoff games, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. They've actually, and the districts they're in now, it'd take a while for them to play each other. But anyway, they're in different districts anyway. We're not doing 26A because that one's the one's not settled. Is the teams are not not competitive. I don't really care to talk about it. Yeah. 21-6A we already talked about earlier with the big game of the week. Moving to 22-6A, it's another deal where I want you to give us Division I and Division II. We have these teams figured out. First of all, if you want to talk a little bit about Shadow Creek, they kind of really put their foot down on Pearland. Yeah, they got out early.
Without their quarterback, Joseph Stewart's out for the year. He broke his leg.
Oh, wow.
He tweeted about it, and they did it with the backup quarterback. Very impressive for Shadow Creek. Looks like the 2 Pearland schools, Pearland and Dawson, will be D1, and then the 2 Alvin ISD schools, Manville and Shadow Creek, will be D2.
Gotcha.
In this game particularly, I like Dawson. Manville struggled. I mean, they beat the Pasadena schools and did what they needed to do to get in, but Dawson's got a little bit more juice.
They got more going on. All right, humble battle here in 23-6A. Kingwood, they don't necessarily need this win, but I would like to see how they do in this game against Summer Creek. They've proven they can play against some of the big dogs as they play the Tascosa tight. Tell me how you think they're going to do against Summer Creek.
I think with their offense has been putting up good numbers. They put up 41 points on Tascosa. They put up big numbers last week against CE King. They're going to have to do it again this week because I don't know if their defense can slow Summer Creek down consistently. So I got a feeling this might be the one that gets away from Kingwood. Coming off that emotional win against CE King where they took a huge step towards wrapping the playoffs up. It could be a little bit of a letdown game for them, and then they kind of reset going into that Week 11 game against Humboldt where they win that and they're in. So I like Summer Creek. I like Summer Creek pretty comfortably here, at least 17 to 20 points.
They've been winning comfortably over the last 3 weeks since that. Actually, I would say 3.5 weeks. Yeah, 3.5 weeks because they won comfortably in the second half against the Tascosa. 24-6A. I would put this as the district title game, but if Deer Park wins, they still got to get Dickinson. Otherwise, we got a 3-way tie. But how do you like the way Clear Springs is playing? They're playing pretty good, especially that wide receiver, Uez Tunkar. I don't even know how you pronounce it right, but I hope I am. The Arizona.
Doing great. Big win last week. Going to Deer Park. It's going to be tough. Deer Park plays well at home. Tough road trip. Deer Park and Dickinson kind of have a little bit of an advantage whereas they have kind of a true home field advantage playing the Clear Creek schools. So, but Springs, the talent is there. The talent, they're dynamic. They're explosive, and I think a little too explosive for Deer Park. It'll be close in Deer Park, but I like Clear Springs in a 1-score game.
I can take it. we talked about going into 5A. We talked 9-5A at the beginning when we talked about Galveston ball and them. But let's move over to 11-6A where we got the title game here. LaPorte going down to Angleton. I don't know if we've even had Angleton on the air this year. We probably should have.
They haven't had a lot of competitive games. Yeah, they've been pretty dominant. Yeah, Jason Ritten's ball club has been really good. LaPorte got off to that slow start, playing that really tough schedule, and Kevin Berninthi's squad, that wing T offense has gotten it going. So, great ball game here. District championship on the line. These are clearly the two best teams in the district. Got to give LaPorte a lot of credit. In the last 2 years, playing all their games away from home, finding ways to win, being road warriors. Tough road trip down to Angleton. They're going to be rocking and rolling down there in Brazoria County. I like Angleton. I think they're going to force LaPorte to try to throw the ball. LaPorte throws the ball best when it's a surprise, not when it's expected.
Right.
I think if you're Angleton, you win first down, put LaPorte in some off schedule, and you'll take care of business. But it should be a great ball game. It's going to be close. But I like Angleton at home.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year in our preseason stuff, at 5A Division I, I was talking LaPorte like nobody's business. So should I go back on my word or should I stick with them? I think I'm going to stick with them in this one. Somehow they're going to be their road warriors and find a way to win here too. Cross them up with the misdirections.
Both these teams are sneaky good. Like they're not going to get talked about a lot come when the playoff brackets come out in a couple of weeks. But they're sneaky good, and they're going to have home games in the first round of the playoffs. Now, the key is here, whoever finishes second is going to have a much, much tougher game because you're going to get the loser of Pflugerville, Weiss, and College Station. Those are two really good teams, kind of borderline top 10 teams. So, but you want to get that game at home, so you will get it at home. But the winner, I think, gets a much, much more manageable first-round game with Austin Anderson coming to town.
And I have a feeling that LaPorte would have to play on a Thursday since they're going to end up having to share a stadium, right? They'll probably have to share with either Barbers Hill or Deer Park. Am I right?
They've played all their games this year at Deer Park, so they'd have to declare that.
They'd have to okay. Well, if Deer Park messes. Well, last year they played at. They played at Northshore.
Lancaster.
Or Sheldon, Sheldon. Sheldon ISD. You're right.
Sea King Stadium might be available.
So. Okay.
I don't think Sea King's going to be using it, so they can probably play there again.
That is true. It will be home free. And then
nice stadium too.
If we're saying Crosby's 3, then this game might be for the fourth playoff spot here. Friendswood taking
absolutely. I think this
Kingwood Park. What do you think?
This is the battle for fourth. I like Friendswood. I think they've just been a little more competitive against the upper tier of the district. So I'm gonna go with Friendswood. In a very close game, and it's a long road trip from Humble down to Friendswood. That's a haul.
It is.
Give me Friendswood at home.
I got you. We're skipping over non-5A because those 4 teams have pretty much been settled. If we can both agree on Texas City being in there at 4.
Yeah. Well, Richmond Randall though, my goodness, they're impressive. They are.
That's going to be tough.
They're my pick to get to Arlington right now. 5A
All right.
on that side
I like
of the
to hear that.
So.
I like to hear that. I'm sticking with Columbus despite the loss and injuries, but we'll get to them. Well, maybe we won't. We won't get to them because they're not playing anybody at worth. We're not going to talk about them, but we talked about them already. Columbus is always
got Hempstead this week. I think I think they'll handle Hempstead.
I think so. All right. Well, let's go to the one we talked about a little bit at the beginning, but 8-5A Division II. We got some key games coming up this week. Mm-hmm. Huntsville's got to find a way to bounce back, and they're heading to Nederland, which. It's not going to be easy because Nederland's on a roll, haven't lost yet. Tell me what you think is going to happen this one.
Newly state ranked.
There you go.
Tough road trip for Huntsville. If Huntsville's got their quarterback back, I think they can beat Nederland. Their athleticism is going to give Nederland some trouble. QB doesn't play. Got to go with Nederland here at home. I do worry a little bit about Nederland coming off that emotional win over P&G. That's a rivalry game of the highest order. And maybe have a little bit of a letdown here, but if Huntsville doesn't have their quarterback, I just don't see how they can consistently generate enough offense against that tough Nederland defense.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Boy, they're really going to be harping on that doink field goal or extra point against P&G.
Yeah, that's going to haunt them, yeah.
That's going to stick to them. Montgomery's got a long trip to P&G, no matter what the record is. It's difficult for me to see the Bears winning on the road at P&G after a loss. That
Yeah, I got
seems like a difficult
P&G
deal.
is going to be pissed off. 22-game losing streak came to an end. I got a feeling they're going to end up running into an angry football team. So I like P&G at home to get that bad taste out of their mouth.
I got you. We haven't talked a lot about 10-4A Division One, but now's the time to talk about them. Huffman Hargrave, your thoughts on them trying to hold up here against not the big one, but Little Cypress, Mauriceville. Talk to me.
Well, I've never heard of Big Cypress, Mauriceville, so we got to go there. So
Let's go with the little ones.
Yeah, I just call them LCM. The Bears do a great job. Eric Peavy was the former head coach of Beaumont Westbrook when they went to the state championship game. Went over to LCM, took them to a regional final his first year. They haven't been quite as good the last couple of years, still a playoff team, but they're back, they're rolling. I think they're the best team in this district. I think LCM goes on the road and gets the win over Huffman. A surprising Huffman. Huffman's done a good job, though, this year. Coach Bookta has done a good job.
They have. Yeah, I remember LCM a couple years ago knocking off Reuben Owens and them.
Yeah.
And I believe that was in like the Woodlands or somewhere. I forget what the neutral site was.
Yeah, it was a third-round game, and then they lost the next week to Tyler Chapel Hill. You know, those East Texas teams are kind of dominated.
Stuff.
Yeah.
They'll do stuff for sure. All right, moving to 10-4A Division 2. Lamarck's taking on West Columbia. This one seems like you're going to have to dig around for some tie-breaking deals here because we got Sweeney, we got West Columbia, we got Brookshire Royal all tied up there at front in first. Lamarck's probably just sitting there, hoping knowing that they'll probably be the fourth team unless they can pull off one here.
Yeah, I don't think on the road they're going to be able to get West Columbia. I think the Roughnecks got a little too much juice, too physical, and they'll handle Lamarck. So I like West Columbia. I think West Columbia is the most consistent team in this district.
Who do you think is going to wind up being the one seed? Do you know anything about these tie-breaking situations here because they've all beaten each other?
Yeah, but I don't think I think when I did my projection, Wizzy, I think there's a good chance that the ties could break themselves. West Columbia lost to Sweeney by 2, right, and they're closing out with Lamarck. So, you would think, and then I think they have one of the Kit schools last. So
yeah, they got Sugarland.
Yeah, so they'll get that win. So they're gonna end up. I think they'll end up, at the top of the district. So I just need to kind of work through the tiebreakers in this district, but I feel pretty good about where things stack up.
Well, Sweeney's played everybody tight, man. Overtime game against
Sweeney's been the one team. Yeah.
All right, looking at the other 4A Division 2 district, Belleville and Madisonville. This looks like a district title game here.
Yeah, Madisonville, really impressive win last week over Sealy. Kind of handled them with relative ease. Belleville's, I think, got their wheels back on after kind of struggling in non-district. So Madisonville's got a great running back themselves in Philip Green, but I think Belleville a little too much, and they're kind of getting rolling. They're kind of peaking at the right time. There might be a team that nobody's talking about come playoff time that could be a real tough out there in Region 3.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun Week 10, and I really can't wait till Week 11. But before we get to Week 11, we got to find out where Matt is stepping out to this week.
Yeah, I'm staying local in the DFW Metroplex this week since I'm going out of town out of the country Saturday for my wife's birthday. So Thursday I'll be at Namden Forest in Saxe. Pretty good game there in Garland ISD. And then Friday night I'll be in Carrollton for the district championship game, I believe in 5-5A Division 1 as Newman Smith.
6-5A Division 1. But yeah, you're right.
Carrollton Newman Smith taking on undefeated West Mesquite. So should be a couple of good games, playoff implications on the line. So looking forward to that. And then hopefully, I'll get back down to Houston sometime during the playoffs. That's the hope.
It might be a quick game for you when in Carrollton, or the West Mesquite offense likes to run that ball.
Yeah. So, and then I know Week 11, I'm not going to a game Saturday because I got to get playoff brackets done.
You just got to figure it out, man. We need you. We need you on that wall.
It's my time. Listen, I've said it before. The playoffs, Week 1, Week 2, I am the most popular guy in the media in Texas because everybody wants to know when the brackets are getting released. So
people don't know this, but that's where, and I may be making this up, but that's where that hat to the back turned out to. Whenever he starts doing playoff stuff, his hat's like this, and then he goes over the top style. That's when you know he means business. He does a little slide Stallone and turns it to the back. He just left it there for the rest of the.
That's a real fringe reference of a bad arm wrestling movie.
I was going to say I don't even think you knew that one. You may be too young for that joint.
I was a kid, but I remember my mom watching it. So.
Yeah. You know it's time for business when the hat goes to the back. He's got to. I can guarantee if I start texting you nonsense, that's going to be ignored left and right on that Saturday. I ain't got time for it. I may get my ass blocked. I don't know.
Yeah,
I may get blocked.
Actually, because on Saturday, week 11, I'm working.
Right.
For you, I'm working for you, Wizzy.
Right. He's working for me and the common man.
You don't text me nonsense. You let me work. You let me cook. So I appreciate
Let him cook, man. He's in the kitchen. He's making all sorts of freaking stuff. He's making all sorts of jambalaya
games. Yeah,
I do it.
Thursday playoff games and double headers. That's what he needs.
2 more weeks of the regular season, and we really start that 6-week quest. See who's getting the AT&T, and then we celebrate Christmas after that. All right, brother. I appreciate it, and we will talk to you again next week.